So we're just going to divide the numerator by the denominator and then continue the division process until either the quotient is a terminating decimal and that it ends, you can tell that it ends on your calculator screen, or a repeating pattern is recognized. So we're going to write these fractions these fractions or mixed numbers as a decimal. So 3/5 would be 3 divided by 5. So I'm just doing that on my calculator. 3 divided by 5. And I get 6/10. That's pretty easy. 68 divided by 25. 68 divided by 25. And I get 2 72/100. 3 5/8, we know that's going to be 3 and whatever 5/8 is, so I'll just divide 5 by 8 on my calculator. 625 thousandths. 3/8, 3 divided by 8. 375 thousandths. And 5/16 would be 5 divided by 16. And, that's 12 in that, so it's going to be 12 and whatever this fraction is. 12 and 3,125 10,000ths. So kind of written on top of the other thing. Now we're going to talk about repeating decimals. So if we have 4/9, 4 divided by 9, my calculator display, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's a decimal point, and then the 4s continue all the way across. So that's the repeating decimal with the 4 repeating. So we put a bar over that 4 to show that that repeats over and over. 3/22, 3 divided by 22. And what my calculator says, it's probably easier if I write this. Basically that, and it fills my display up, so I know that it just keeps going. And you can see that the 3 and the 6 repeat. So when I write this as a repeating decimal, I put the bar over the first time that that repeating pattern appears. 8/9, 8 divided by 9. And I have, this is what my calculator says. It's a bunch of 8s. And then at the end, there's a 9. And the reason there's a 9 there is because my calculator is programmed to round. And because there'd be an 8 and another 8, then the 8 is more than 5, so it rounds up to 9. But what I know is that it's just repeating 8s forever and ever. Even though that's not what my calculator actually shows me, I'm smarter than my calculator. -17/11, we know this is going to be a negative decimal. 17 divided by 11. And my calculator says something that looks like this. And it does end in a 5 because the next digit would be a 4, and that means it would just be ignored. So 5/4, 5/4, 5/4, 5/4. So that's the way I'd write my answer. 1 and with the 5/4 repeating. Now we're gonna round the decimals. I think one of these actually is a repeating decimal, but it tells us to round it. So that's the way they want our answer. So when we do 162 divided by 7, I'm getting this on my calculator. And it fills up the display. So we're going to round this to the 10ths place. So we look at the next place over, and it's just a 4. So we're just going to drop everything off. So this is going to be 23 and 1/10. That's rounded. The next one, I know this is going to be a negative, and we're rounding to the hundredths place. So what I know is that it's going to look like this. There's going to be 2 places in the end. So I'm going to divide 21 by 31, and you see there's nothing repeating about that. I'm going to round to this place, so I look at the next door neighbor. It's a 7, so we're going to go up. Instead of 6,700s, it's going to be negative 6,800, so we can put that little courtesy 0 if we want. 9 7s, we're rounding to the 10th place. 9 divided by 7, and I get 2, 8, 5, 7, 1, 4, 2, 8, 6. I'm rounding to the 10th place, and that next digit is an 8, so it's going to be 1 3/10. I'm going to go up since this is more than 5. This one I'm rounding to the hundredths place, and I know it's going to be negative. So 17 divided by 37. And this is what my calculator says. 459459459. And I do see some repeating going on here, but we want to round it to the nearest hundredths place, and the next digit is a 9, so this is going to be rounded to negative 46 hundredths. So now this is another one of my little typing adventures here. We're going to write the decimal as a fraction and then reduce the fraction to lowest terms. And the way I like to think about this is you're going to read the decimal, you're going to write it as a fraction, and then you're going to reduce that fraction to simplest form or lowest terms. So if we have this fraction, we're going to read it 475 thousandths, 475 thousandths. This is the same as this. We know that the decimal places is either 10 as a denominator in our fraction, or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000. So we can simplify this by, I think we can divide both of those by 25. So I think we have 19 over 40 for our final answer. That's the simplified. We've reduced it. Now we have negative 1 25 hundredths, negative 1 25 hundredths. We just read this decimal, and then we wrote the fractional part as a fraction. And we can simplify the fraction to negative 1 1/4. 875 thousandths, 875 thousandths, and that can be reduced. I could actually put that in my calculator because I've done this before. 875 ABC 1000, and it'll reduce it to 7/8. And we could do that in a couple of steps, but I'm just going to use my calculator because it's here. The next one is negative 1 55 100ths. We can divide both of these by 5, so we would have negative 1 11 20ths. So your calculator will do all the work, and you can use your calculator doing this on the exam. Next, our book shows us a nice chart for several fractions that are used quite often, and their decimal forms are worth memorizing. We know a fourth is 25 hundredths, and a half is 5/10, 3/4 is 75 hundredths, and then they have the ninths. 1/9 is 0.1 with that 1 repeating. 2/9 is 0.2 with the 2 repeating, and 3/9 is 3 repeating, and 3/9 is the same as a third. 4/9 has the 4 repeating. 5/9 has the 5. So these are pretty easy to learn, and they're real useful. You don't have to use a calculator when you see those. So if we were using our chart, and we know that this with the 7 repeating is 7/9. We know with the 3 repeating, it's either 3/9 or simplified to 1/3. We have the 8 repeating, that's 8/9. So these are very easy. I mean, looking at the chart, or my brain will do that work for me. Now we're going to put some decimals and fractions in order. If you have fractions, you can find a common denominator and change the fraction so they have the same denominator. They're easy to do. Decimals are really easier to compare because you can just line them up and see which one is greater or less than the others. So when this first problem that we have 2 decimals that are actually the same. So we're going to add a 1 to that 5 and make it a different decimal. And then we have 1/2. The easiest thing to do would be to change that to a decimal, 5/10. And we'll line those up. We're lining them up. And if you like, you can fill in with some zeros. That's up to you, whether you need to or not. And now we can compare those. We want to order them from the smallest to the greatest. So 1's is the same, 4's is not. So these are one of these is the smallest one. So we could continue to compare, and when we get to the thousands place, this is the smallest one. And then 451 thousandths is the next one, which leaves us 5/10 to be the greatest one. So here we have 161 thousandths, 1/6, and 1600ths. So I'm going to change this to a decimal, 1 divided by 6. And I get a repeating decimal. The 6's just continue to repeat. And rather than writing that with a bar, I think it's easier to compare when you have some digits there. So I'm going to line these up. I'm big on that. And 1600ths. So, like I say, if you want to fill in some zeros, you're welcome to do that. That's up to you. We're going to start comparing at the most powerful place. We're going to look for the smallest one. Same, same, same. But when we get to this next place, this is going to be the smallest one because we have a 0 in the thousands place. So this is the smallest. And then this would be the next one. And then this would be the next one, and we know that that is 1/6. So I'm just going to write 1/6 up here. Probably I should have written 1/2. I can figure that out if you do that. We're going to do order of operations next, and we know the order of operations. We're going to do the parentheses or other grouping symbols first. Then we're going to do the exponents or square roots or absolute values. Then we're doing multiplication, division, left to right. And then finally, we'll do the addition and subtraction, left to right. So we know this. We've done this with whole numbers. We actually have done it with fractions as well. They're a mess. They're a lot of trouble. These are not as big a trouble, but we're going to do the same thing. Going to use the same order. So on this one, we need to do what's in parentheses first. And if we subtract those, we're going to get 3 2/10, and we have to square that. So we've taken care of the parentheses. Now we're going to do this exponent. I'm just going to do that on my calculator. And it is 10 2400ths. So I'm going to subtract those. And I can do that on my calculator. And my final answer is 6 16/100. I mean, you could do this easily without your calculator. That's not very difficult. Remember, for subtraction, you have to put that 0 up there because we're going to borrow. 6, 1, 6. There you go. Okay, this one we have kind of the same organization. We're going to do what's in parentheses first. 1 5/10. We're going to square that and then subtract 2 from it. So 1 5/10 squared is 2 25/100. And we're going to subtract 2 from that. So if you wrote that out, it would look like this. If you want to fill this in, you can. You don't have to when the empty places are on the bottom. And our answer would be 25/100. Oh, this one. We have a decimal, we have a mixed number, and we have a fraction. Oh, you can do this however you want. I'm probably just going to work these as fractions because we've got 2 that are already fractions. So I'm going to change this -6 4/10 or -6 2/5. I'm going to change that to an improper fraction. So I have -32/5, and I'm going to multiply it by this mixed number. I'm going to change it to an improper fraction because that's what you need to do to multiply. 16 and 5 would be, what, 21/8? Then eventually I'm going to divide it by 3/5 squared. So at this point I have multiplication, division, and an exponent. And I know that I'm going to do the exponent first. So I have -32/5 times 21/8 divided by 9 times 9 would be, 3 times 3 would be 9, 5 times 5 would be 25. So what that really is going to be, instead of dividing by this number, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. And now that I'm all in multiplication, I can do my canceling, and with this third number in multiplication, then I have more choices that I can cancel from. So that's going to be good. I know I can divide the 32 and the 8 by 8. I can divide the 5 and the 25 by 5. I can divide 21 and 9 by 3. And now I have, 28 times 5? Which is 140. This is going to be negative because we have just one negative number. And on the denominator, 1 times 1 times 3 would be 3. So we can leave it like that, or we can change it to a mixed number if you want. But that's dandy. This one, we have a decimal, we have a fraction, we have another fraction. And they're telling us that this fraction, to change it to a decimal, it doesn't have an end. So we're probably going to be better off changing everything to fractions. Or, yes, changing everything to fractions. So this would be -2 6/10, or -2 3/5. So as a mixed number, as an improper fraction, that would be -13/5 times 3/13 plus, and we'll do our exponent first. 3 times 3 is 9, 5 times 5 is 25. So we're going to have to do the multiplication first. I know this is going to be negative because the signs are different. I can divide 13 and 13 by 1, and I end up with negative 3/5 plus 9/25. Now to add, you know, we have to have the same denominator, so I'm going to just use my space over here so you can actually see what I'm doing. I can use 25 as my denominator. So this second fraction's done. We'll multiply this first fraction by 5 to get 25 in the denominator, so 5 in the numerator would be 15. So we have 15 negative 25ths and 9 positives, which would be 6 negative 25ths. So that's pretty good. We've worked with area of triangles before. We know this is the formula. 1/2 the base times the height. And since these measurements are in decimals, I'm going to use the decimal for 1/2 and multiply it by the base, which is 6 8/10, and the height, which is 4 2/10. And I'll just use my calculator to do that. 5/10 times 6 8/10 times 4 2/10. And I get, I don't know why that is there, but it is 14 28, and this is measured in feet. Area is always measured in square units, so this is going to be square feet. 14 28 hundredths square feet.